Namaste. Welcome to Awaken Living with Nibodhi. Today marks a very special day. It's the 100th episode, and I wanted to make today a very special podcast, something that really is dear to my heart. I want to just begin by thanking everyone who listens to the podcast, who's left reviews, comments, who rates it, who shares it, who gives their feedback. It really means everything. And nothing is possible for me without grace. And that's what today's discussion is, because to me, grace is really that hidden divine force behind all success. And just in that, I give thanks to my guru, Amma, to God, to Mother Earth, to all the factors in my life that bestow their grace on me, and to myself for allowing myself to be open to receive it as much as I can be open to receive it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What is grace? How do we get it? Why do we get it? Everything about grace. Because to me, grace is so beautiful and it's necessary. We need grace. Without it, nothing really happens. And we hear that word a lot, and I think there's a lot of confusion around that. So today's going to be a longer podcast. It's going to be kind of a deep dive into my understanding of what grace is. Because we say it in our prayers. We ask for grace. We hear about it in temples, in satsangs, in yoga class, in new age and spiritual conversations. We hear it all the time. Pray for grace, ask for grace. You had grace, you didn't have grace. But what does that mean? What is grace? Is it just some blessing we get occasionally? Or is it a divine favor that we get from above, kind of like winning the lottery? Do we get it like Santa Claus with his naughty and nice list? We get it when we're especially good or especially devoted, or we did some special thing on some special day when the moon was in some special position. I don't think it's any of that. I think grace is just way more intimate than that. And so we're going to explore this as a living force. I want to explore grace as a living force, not some concept or ideal. From the perspective of Sanatana Dharma, grace isn't rare. And Sanatana Dharma means the eternal path. It's not a religion, it's everything. Sanatana Dharma it means the eternal way. It accepts all paths, all traditions, all religions. And so from that perspective, grace is not some rare thing that only a few special pious souls get. And it's not hidden either, because it's not absent. It's hidden because we're hiding from it. We're too distracted, or our ego is saying we don't need grace, or the mind is too restless, or we're so controlling that we're forgetting to notice it. And it's the awareness of it that really allows us to be open to it, because the grace is already there. It's present actually in everything. That's really, really important, I think, to understand, is that it's everywhere all the time. It's not somewhere, it's not a far away reward that we get when we take our last breath. It's not the reward of going to heaven if you were a good boy or a good girl in this life. And it's not just for saints or enlightened masters or a special few people who do 18 hours of karma yoga every day. It's for everyone. Okay? Everyone has grace inside them. It's actually the intelligence that's already inside of our body. It's the intelligence, like in Ayurveda, it's the healing intelligence of the cell, the Pilu Chitta Agni, that's cellular intelligence. And it's that intelligence that guides us towards the truth and wholeness. It's grace that our eyelids close and open. There's trillions of processes happening inside of our body every single day that we're not telling it what to do, and it does it on its own. That alone is grace. Okay? Vedanta says grace is recognizing ourselves as one with the creation, same as in yoga, union. Our breath goes in and out. Unless you're doing pranayama, you're not controlling it. It does it on its own. It's autonomic. Our heart beats without us telling it to beat. If we get a wound, it closes and heals itself. Sometimes a thought or an insight or a vision comes out of nowhere. We didn't tell it to come. These aren't achievements that our own self-effort did anything. They're expressions of that divine grace just moving through life, moving through your own body. Because in Vedanta, as above, so below. Om Tat Sat, thou art that. We are that supreme principle. God, the supreme creator, created everything, including us, and incarnated as us and played a game called I forget. I amnesia. I forgot who I am is. But the grace is there. We just either forgot about it or we ignore it because we try to control things. We think we're the doer. That we have this asmita. We forgot who I am is, and so we think we're the doer, and we try and control everything, and then it overrides the grace, and we learn to not trust ourselves. We learn to not trust our intuition. We have to go, go, go. We think that who we are is and how important we are is based on what we achieve. So we become the doer instead of being, instead of the quiet witness, instead of slowing down and listening. And that's really the first step in being open to the grace that's already there, is slowing down and listen, breathing. Stop identifying with being the doer, because grace is that divine support behind every cell in the body's movement, behind our breath. Grace is waking up in the morning and being on God's wake-up list. And grace is the strength when you thought you didn't have any left. When the mother sees her child pinned under the car and she weighs 90 pounds and she lifts the car and pulls her baby under. That's grace. Grace is that inner voice telling you to keep going. Grace is clarity that appears after we're done being confused. Okay. And grace is that compassion when we make mistakes and we figure out how to do the thing correctly. Okay. From Vedanta, from Dharma, grace is not some magical thing that comes for a few people. It's part of the divine order of life. And also there's a saying that grace and effort go hand in hand, and Sanatana Dharma doesn't separate the two. It holds both as essential. We make effort and we practice and we pray and we serve and we discipline ourselves, all those things. And the final opening, that final insight, that final transformation, it's not because of anything we do. That's where the grace comes in. That's the greater thing. We're just preparing ourselves to receive it. But I do think that even there, it's grace that allows us to put forth self-effort, but we have to put forth self-effort first. So it's this interesting dichotomy. And even I get confused about this sometimes. Because if grace is doing everything, why do we even need to practice? And if effort does everything, where's the grace? The answer really that I've come to and that the teachings tell us is that it is both. Effort prepares the field. It's like clearing the weeds out of the field so we can put the seeds in the earth, and then the tree will grow and will bear fruits. Okay? So, we have to do the practice. We have to do our self-effort, purify the body, purify the mind, make us more receptive, make us more sensitive, but the grace is always there. Realizing that we don't need to do anything to earn it, or we can't do anything to deserve it. God's grace is filled with compassion and empathy, and it's always there. It's always available to us. So that is the first and most important thing to understand. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that we must do action, that it is our dharma to do action. Whatever our dharma is, we have to take that action in life. And it is through doing dharmic action that we surrender. We surrender the ego. We surrender the limitations of the mind, and we act fully in alignment with the divine will. And we release the attachments to the outcome. Krishna told Arjuna, you have the right to act, but not the right to the fruits. That comes by grace. That's the path of balance. Because too much effort, we get really tense. We get anxious. We get anxiety, and that comes from ego, and that leads to burnout. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, if we're too tamasic, if we're passive, we're not doing anything, that creates stagnation and illusion and even depression. So we need to put forth the effort, and that effort leads to surrender, and that surrender opens the door to grace, okay? But remember, it's not the effort. The grace is always there. It doesn't come and go. Our awareness of it comes and goes. It's like clouds in the sky. They come and they go. They appear out of nowhere and then they go. The sun is always there. And when our mind is agitated, it's like the clouds obscuring the sun. The mind becomes contracted. It identifies with the darkness, with the shadow, with the fear, and we feel cut off from that light source. But when the mind is open and when the mind is clear, we're illuminated and the grace is obvious. So the work is not to create grace. We can't do that. The work is to remove the resistance, remove whatever we're doing that's blocking the grace. So how do we do that? Number one, like I've talked about this in so many other podcasts, is slow down our system, regulate the nervous system. Because when the nervous system is overstimulated, when we're under stress, our ability to perceive reality as it is becomes narrow. William Blake said, when the doors of perception have been cleansed, everything will appear as it is, infinite. So the doors of perception is how we take in the external world, but they're covered with a bunch of cobwebs and gunk. So we miss the subtle cues of nature. We miss the subtle cues of the universe. And so the practices that yoga has given us, like pranayama, breath work, meditation, yoga, time in nature, ahimsa, nonviolence, things like this, they just increase our receptivity, right? And so what Ayurveda encourages us is this dinacharya lifestyle, to refine the lifestyle, to create balance, to create consistency in our food, in our sleep, in our daily rhythm and practices, because all of that leads to clarity. And if we're filled with these heavy, toxic buildup in our body, physical or mental, then we need to clean the inputs. We need to clean the sensors. That's all. Okay. And so we need to slow down. We need to adjust the lifestyle. We need to watch the patterns, like our mental, emotional patterns. We need to watch what our triggers are. We need to notice when we contract at something, whatever it is. We need to notice if we're trying to control the situation or if we're resisting a situation, because all these things block the flow. And as soon as we have awareness of them, we're not changing them all at once, but as soon as we have awareness of these things, it loosens the grip. We loosen the grip on them. And one of the best ways in my experience and in my life to loosen those grips is to cultivate self-surrender and devotion. That doesn't require like a belief in a form. It requires openness. It requires gratitude. Gratitude is one of the best things we can do every single day. Be grateful for life. Be grateful that we were on God's wake-up list this morning. And surrender. Be willing to be guided. If you want to know quantum physics and you're in pre-algebra, you need to go to a teacher who knows algebra and then geometry and trigonometry and then quantum physics. You have to be willing to surrender yourself to someone who knows more than you. And it's also very important what the concept of satsang, because satsang means to be in the company of truth. We want to be around other people who are supporting us on the path, who are strengthening our alignment with ourself, who are strengthening our alignment with the divine, whether that's satsangs in person, meditation groups, online groups, going to teachers, reading the spiritual books. The satsang just orients our consciousness towards what we want, which is more light, more love, and that's the grace factor. And then surrender the fruits, surrender the attachment to the fruits, surrender the idea that we're doing it, that there's a divine, like the same way we're not moving the things in our body, the cells in our body, we're not doing the action. There's a divine force that dictates how long we're going to be here and how much energy we have to do it. So we have to do our work fully and surrender the results, surrender releasing the need to control the results. And that's where the grace starts to come in. Every major shift that's ever happened in our life is ultimately by grace, whether it's meeting the right person intimately or a business partner or whatever. It's meeting the right person at the exact same at the exact right time. That's the divine synchronicity. That's grace. Hearing the exact teaching that you needed in that moment. A spontaneous healing in the moment, a moment of clarity that changed your direction in life, whatever. You were there. You were the only one there. You showed up for yourself. But something beyond that, beyond you, was what moved that thing. The grace is that deciding factor. It's the Shakti. It's the intelligent force of consciousness in all of nature. All of creation is Shakti. The Vedic texts would say that grace is the self revealing itself to itself. The Bhakti perspective would say that grace is the love of God, God's infinite compassion reaching out to you. And unconditional love, compassion, has no prerequisites. Grace has no prerequisites. Like I said earlier, Ayurveda, the perspective is that grace is the body's divine intelligence restoring balance to itself. All of these things are just different languages. It's the same exact reality. So we don't need to go chasing grace. We need to make ourselves available to it. So in self-inquiry, there's questions that we can ask. Why, if we're not getting the grace that we think we need or that we want, why are we still resisting? What are we holding on to? What are we trying to control? Where are we not listening? Shift those things, and the grace will become visible. Remember, grace is not rare. It's constant. It's our effort that matters. It's our discipline that matters. It's our sincerity that matters. Grace is it's completing what our effort begins. So we need to align with both. We need to align with grace and self-effort, and our life will move in a different direction with less force and more flow. That's what the flow state we talk about is all about. We're in flow with the universe. We're in that state of grace, and we have clarity and we have trust, and everything we do from that place carries a different energy. It has a different quality. Life has a different quality. It's the grace quality. I'm very excited to share with you Real Mushrooms, the sponsor of the Awakened Living podcast. I use their mushrooms every single day because they've genuinely changed my life. I trust them because they have 50 years of expertise and use 100% organic mushrooms, 0 grains, 0 fillers, which are found in most common mushroom products on the market. They use just real, organic, clinically tested mushrooms. Every morning, I use lion's mane to sharpen my thinking. I use cordyceps to give me the clean energy I need for the day. I use chaga to strengthen my immune system. And when stress hits, and it does, I use reishi to bring me back to center. With their products, you actually feel the difference. Through the end of April, Real Mushrooms gives Awaken Living with Nibodhi podcast listeners 25% off their entire first order. Use the code AWAKEN25 at checkout and get 25% off your first purchase. You can find their link in the show notes or visit nibodhi.com/mushrooms to get yours today. So many people tell me all the time that they think if they work hard enough, they can force realization to happen. Or if grace is real, then they don't need to do anything. None of that's right, okay? Like, none of that is right. Like, the deeper teaching is that the effort just prepares us. Grace completes us, effort prepares us. Till the soil. Grace is the rain, right? If we're tilling the soil, we put the seeds in, we need the sunshine, we need the rain. That's the grace. We prepare the field. We can't control the rain. We plant the seed. We can't make it sprout by our own willpower. That's the relationship. We do our part with as much sincerity as possible, and then we just sit and watch, okay? Don't be lazy, okay? We are responsible, but we're not the ultimate doer. That's the beautiful balance, is just doing the action with love. Do the action because you love doing that action, because it's the right thing to do, because it feels good to the heart. We also need the grace of our own mind, right? Because the mind is either our greatest gift or our biggest enemy. It's really the biggest obstacle. It's the same mind that creates the problems that can solve the problems. But as Einstein said, we will not solve the problems of the world with the same thinking that created them. We need to think differently. It's still the same mind that's thinking, but we need to think about it differently. The mind is frequently blamed as the cause of our suffering, but if it's the cause of suffering, it's that same mind that's going to liberate us from the suffering. So yeah, 100%. It can completely bind us through our attachments, fear, greed, projection, selfishness, all that. And it frees us through clarity, mindful discrimination, insight. And that's what's known in yoga as viveka. It's the discrimination, discerning what's real from unreal. And it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. When they talk about unreal in Vedanta, it means that which is transient, that which is not eternal. Anything material is considered unreal. It's transient. It's not going to last forever. Okay. So our clarity from the mind is not it's not something that we can manufacture. Like we can't just say, hey, I'm going to have clarity right now. It arrives like a beautiful butterfly floating on the breeze in the springtime, arriving on your heart. That's a beautiful flower. You're preparing the flower to receive the butterfly. That's all. That's the moment of grace when the butterfly lands. Okay. When our patterns, our samskaras, our latent tendencies that we've either built in this life or brought with us become aware, the subconscious programs, the unconscious programs become conscious, and we're aware of them, that's grace. When we let go of a limiting belief, when we allow it to dissolve, that's grace. The mind opens. It's not random. It's the grace moving through the instrument of the mind, because the mind is an instrument. It's like the hard drive on the computer. We can upgrade the system. So the mind ultimately is not an enemy. It's just the operating system. It's a vehicle. And it can be a channel of pain and suffering, and it can be a channel of love and light and grace. Because in the restless mind, we miss the grace. In a fearful mind, we miss the grace. If we're filled with ego, we miss the grace. We're always grasping for something outside of ourselves to think that we're going to feel okay. We're always comparing, but that's insane because no two things in the whole universe are alike. We're always trying to control life. And so that mind will not receive the grace. Okay. When it's calm, it changes. The calm mind becomes receptive. The selfless mind, the humble mind becomes open. And the mind becomes a vessel for light to flow through. And then we notice everything happening by grace, not our own effort. We see the intelligence of life. We see that divine synchronicity in that there's a timing to the universe. There's guidance. There's protection. This universe has been holding itself together for more than 14 billion years with more than 2 trillion observable galaxies in a universe that we can only see 2 to 3% of it, if that. The universe knows what it's doing. There's grace in that, okay? And even in my own life, I've seen so many times scenarios that I thought were setbacks actually turned out to be grace. I didn't realize it till later. Things that were delayed became grace. I didn't see it till it was later. Disappointments and what I thought were failures actually turned out to be unfathomable grace, helping me to avoid horrible situations in that moment, even though I thought I wasn't getting what I wanted and that God was mad at me. Right? So the mind is a best friend and a worst enemy. Okay. If it's attached to an outcome being a certain way, we're going to suffer. When it learns to trust and surrender, everything becomes divine, everything becomes sacred. And that's really where we need our own grace. It's called Swarupa Anugraha. It's the inner grace. It's each of us carrying our own inner grace. That's our own Shakti. It's the Shakti of our own awareness. And it's directly related to the mind because it comes from that quietness. We become the vehicle of grace if we allow ourselves to be open to the grace. And this is where the self-effort is important because it comes through practice. It comes through sadhana. It comes through that spiritual practice. It comes by doing seva, selfless service. It's different than karma yoga because karma yoga, it's in action, but karma, really we should be doing seva, no desire for the result. It's a similar thing, but a lot of times in yoga communities, we do karma yoga and it's an exchange. We do karma yoga, 4 hours of karma yoga, and we can stay there and take a yoga class. But that's not really the essence of it. It's selfless. It's letting go of the fruits, the attachment to the fruits. And through bhakti, through devotion, this is how we open ourselves up. It's how we make the mind receptive, because only through that receptivity can we receive. But remember, Grace is always there. And it's the receptive mind, it's the receptive heart that can receive it. It's like a vessel. It's like a pot. If it's raining, the pot needs to be emptied and turned towards the rain to collect the rain. If it's turned upside down, we can't receive the rain. It's like that. We get our minds all turned upside down, we can't receive the grace. And then in my life, what I consider the most important grace is the grace of the guru. And on the spiritual path, the guru, there's a lot of misconception about gurus, and there's a lot of people who called themselves guru and did really bad things in the name of spirituality. And so people have a misconception about what the guru is. The guru is not just a teacher in the ordinary sense. The guru is the great revealer. The guru means remover of darkness, bestower of light. It is a guide. Only someone who has gone through hell themselves can take you through hell and get you out on the other side unscathed. If you've read about hell, you're not going to take someone through hell, okay? So the guru is the universal wisdom. It's a living expression of divine love. It's a living expression of divine compassion. It's a living expression of unconditional love. The guru is not only a person, it's a principle. It's that force of the universe that is removing our ignorance, our darkness. And the guru isn't asking you for anything. The guru isn't trying to give you something you don't already have. The guru is trying to show you what's already true within you. G, you are you. Get it? G, you are you. The guru is trying to show you that you are the self, that your natural state of being is Satchidananda, pure existence consciousness. Om Tat Sat. You are that supreme principle. There's no difference. God, guru, and self are one and the same. And if you find someone who is truly at that state, who is God incarnated, who is self-realized, truly self-realized, you've hit the universal jackpot. Their presence, just their presence alone, accelerates our evolution. Their words are living truth. They're living Vedas. It cuts through our confusion and delusion. And even their silence, just their glance, transmits something deeper than any words can. In my tradition, my guru, Mata Amritanandamayi Devi Amma, the grace flows through unconditional love. And she teaches that grace is constant. It's like the sunlight. And the issue isn't whether or not grace is present or not. It's whether or not you're open to it. The sun is shining everywhere. If you're in the house with the curtains closed and saying that the sun isn't shining, that's ridiculous. The sun is shining. Open the curtains and allow it to hit you. Or like the rain falling everywhere. Hold the cup upright, you collect the rain. Turn it upside down, there's no rain. But the sun and the rain don't discriminate. They fall on everyone equally. Are we looking at them? Are we receiving them? It's our receptivity that determines whether or not we're receiving it or not. So the guru helps us to turn the cup right side up, to open the curtains, and to stop closing the curtains and stop turning the cup upside down. And this often happens through practices like selfless service, like seva, like devotion, bhakti, singing of bhajan, singing of kirtan, chanting of mantras, and the willingness to look at our own shit, to look at our own patterns, look at our own samskaras. And that requires, number one, trust, and number two, humility, willing to surrender. If I want to learn math, which I'm not very good at, I need to go to a math teacher who's willing to teach me and say, I don't know math, teach me. So I'm not perfect. I cannot say that I'm living in a state of unconditional love. So I go to someone who can teach me how to remove everything in myself that's not unconditional love, so I can be unconditional love, because I know that that's my true nature, and I've had glances of it, but the ego keeps coming back in and telling me that I'm separate. So need the guru, the remover of darkness, the bestower of light. And the guru is not just giving us information, right? The guru is awakening within us as ourself. The guru sometimes teaches through words. Amma gives satsang, but more than anything, it's through the silence. It's through the hugs. It's the unconditional acceptance. It's through example. Look at Amma's life. Her life is a living example. She spends every single moment of every day of her life in service. Just being in their presence, something changes. For anyone who's been to Amma, you know that just being in the room, something starts to change. But regardless, in every case, whatever it is, if you're doing bhakti or karma or yana or mantra or getting darshan or singing bhajans, the goal is the same, to help us remember who we already are, to help us remember that we're the self and we just have amnesia. Like in the allegory of the cave by Plato, one person gets out of the cave and realizes that he's been looking at a shadow, and he tries to tell the other people and they don't believe him. So the guru's grace works best. God's grace works best. Our own grace works best if we're open. And so we need to be humble enough to say, oh, I don't know, and to be open. Because if we think we already know everything, there's no room for grace to enter. If the cup is already full, we can't get new nectar pouring in. We have to empty the cup. Okay. If I think I'm right, what is it that I can learn? Nothing. If I'm attached to my ego, how can I receive anything new? But when we develop humility, then we soften, and that softness is so nice, because that's when the grace flows. But Amma does emphasize that humility is essential. That grace flows into the heart that's open, and self-effort basically is just preparing it. So now that's a powerful thing. It's just having humility and just remembering that there's no lack of grace. The question just is, are we available to receive it? And then, if for some of you, if you don't like the concept of guru or an external guru, then the grace of God, like whatever your concept of God is, from the perspective of Sanatana Dharma, God's grace is just like any other grace, is constant. Because in Vedanta, God is not separate from all of existence. God created existence as its own self. So God is the underlying intelligence in all of life. So in the Bhakti tradition, God is personal and it's intimate and it's responsive. In the non-dual tradition, God is the supreme intelligence behind everything. Okay, but in both views, grace is the movement of the divine coming to us. We don't earn it. We align with it because it's already there. It's like tuning your radio station to the station so you're not getting static. It's very simple. Okay, the sun isn't choosing who to shine on again. It's just shining, right? So alignment happens through right living, through dharma, through our actions and our thoughts and our words and our intentions are aligning with divinity, are aligning with love and light. Okay, the divine isn't greedy. The divine isn't stingy. Some scripture says, I am a jealous God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. What other gods are there? There's one God. It doesn't matter if you call him Shiva or Buddha or Christ or Mohammed or Bob, Paul, Frank, John, Billy. It makes no difference. Or Devi, Lolita, Kali, Shakti, Jane, Janice. Doesn't matter. God's not confused. It's humans that are confused. So God's grace is not stingy. It's not selfish. It's not far away in some far off land in the clouds after birth. It's not being withheld until we do perfect actions and we have good checks on the nice list versus the naughty list. Divine grace is always, 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 always flowing. Again, it depends on our heart. I keep saying that. It depends on our heart. Okay. So we have to take responsibility for our life, and that's the ability to respond to life. Okay, surrender, surrender, surrender. It's not a weakness. There's wisdom in that. There's strength in that. There's courage in that. The ego wants to control everything. God is asking us trust. Grace is asking us to trust. And in my life, I mean, I'm not going to lie, like that's been the hardest part of the spiritual path for me, is to trust. Because I have a Virgo mind, a very scientific mind. It wants certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants everything to unfold how I imagined it. And it never happens that way. And when I'm attached to that, what happens? I suffer. So surrender and trust, finding someone you trust completely. That's not easy to do. Okay. But we have to try. Okay. And then the grace will arrive, especially when we're not expecting it. And and not how we're expecting, because sometimes I've God's grace, Guru's grace has come and it's so comforting. And other times it's incredibly challenging and confronting because I have to look at myself more and it breaks my plans apart. Like in my last 5 years, and especially in my last 2 years, my plans have been shattered to pieces. I actually gave a satsang when I returned to India in 2021 after being in the United States from the pandemic. And I don't know if I had ego in that satsang or not. I'm sure I did, but I said something at the beginning. I said, "He who speaks does not know, and he who knows does not speak." It therefore goes without saying that I obviously don't know. And there might have been some playfulness and joking in that, but it's, grace has made sure that over the last 2 years, last 3 years, that I understand that I don't know, because everything I thought I knew, everything I was planning has broken apart. And some of it has been so painful because I was so attached. And some of it has been so beautiful and so wonderful. And some things have worked out better than I could ever fathom them or plan them on my own. So grace shows up in mysterious ways, and we have to be open to our plans breaking apart and divine plans coming forward. Okay. But, you know, with Amma, what she teaches about grace is so practical. It's so incredibly practical, and it's also infinitely loving and compassionate. She doesn't tell us that grace is any kind of theory. She literally is telling us to embody it so we can live it. And one of her central messages is that grace, like I've been saying, is always available, but we have to be receptive to it. And that receptivity comes through humility, love, devotion, and service. That's very, very important, is service, because we're not serving someone else. We're serving ourselves. There's one of us in drag. And so we're serving ourselves. If one person is suffering, we're all suffering. Okay. It doesn't mean we just sit back and wait for God's grace and everything's going to be okay. Grace is a living thing. So Amma says, grace is always flowing. Make yourself ready. Open your heart, purify the mind, serve others, love selflessly, and let go of the ego. Then grace can work through you. Okay. I love that. It's so practical. It's so practical. So, like, ultimately, like, translate that. If I want peace, I should be more peaceful. If I want love, I should give more love. If I want more help, I should be humble enough to go out and give more help. I should also be able to receive it. If I want inner transformation, I should practice sincerely. Like, how nothing changes if nothing changes. So grace and effort, they're partners. They work together. Effort makes our heart fit, and grace makes the heart blossom. Very, very simple. Okay. So that's the grace factor. And, if I'm honest, I can think of a lot of moments when my effort alone didn't explain the outcome, where my effort definitely fell short. Okay. And, I've seen this so many times. I've seen someone work very hard and not succeed. And I've seen someone, with not such high level of ability be in the right place at the right time and receive the most opportune scenario. Okay. So there's grace in everything. Skill matters, discipline matters. Grace is everything. Grace influences our timing, the opportunity, the clarity, the protection, the inner peace, all of it, right? So we need to align ourselves with grace. How I become open to grace is not complicated. It's humility. I'm not talking about fake humility, truly humble. It's as simple as being honest enough to know that we don't know. That's the first thing. If we admit confusion, that's the first step of getting to clarity. And then really pray, sincerely pray, because it softens my heart. It softens the heart. It reminds us that we're not alone, and that there's a connection, and we don't need a middleman. We don't need to go to the church and talk to some dude with some robes who got a certificate to talk to God. You do it yourself, okay? The biggest factor, and one of the biggest factors in my life, is the opportunity to serve. And that's one of the greatest blessings that Amma has offered, is just the opportunity to do selfless service, because to me, that's opened my heart more than anything else, is just being with people, and hungry people, starving people in the tsunami, I don't want to say someone's less fortunate than me, but people who have less than me, who I have the opportunity to help and try and see myself in them. Having a meditation practice is essential, at least for me, because it helps me to get still and to recognize what's always present. Surrender. And that's not a white flag surrendering defeat. It's surrendering into trust. Trust the universe. Trust a power greater than my own. And I've done a whole podcast on this. Gratitude. Be grateful. Gratitude turns up the notch on grace. It really helps us see, number one, what's already been given, what we have, and how blessed we are to have what we have. And then it just keeps us open to that. So the more of these we practice, the more naturally grace is going to flow through everyday life. Okay. So remember, we move through life with this kind of awareness, and every thought, word, and action, every breath, every action, however small, becomes sacred, and it becomes worthy of grace. Although the grace is still there. I misspoke. We're never worthy. The grace is there. We don't need to do anything to be worthy of grace. We just need to be open, right? So grace isn't just for temples. It's not for those holy days or spiritual retreats. It's when you're working in the kitchen and doing the dishes. It's going to work. It's with your family. It's with your relationships. Grace is there in the grief and in the pain. And grace is there in our uncertainty and in our certainty and in ordinary moments and in extraordinary moments. It's the ordinary moments, if we allow it, when grace can shine the most clearly. So we have to stop reacting and choose kindness. We have to forgive. We have to keep going despite our so-called failures and pain and disappointment, and rest in trust instead of fear. And a life lived in grace is not a life lived without challenge or hardship. It's a life in which every challenge becomes a stepping stone or a doorway for us to walk through. The river of grace is never going to stop flowing. And our task becomes to bring the mind into a resting state so the current can flow through. Open the heart. The heart is the vessel. It's the storehouse. And allow the divine to move through us. Okay? Remember, grace is not received. It's not earned. It's received. Our effort matters, our consciousness matters, our intention matters. But none of this is forcing it. So I came up with a few quotes that I love on grace that I'm going to share with you before we end. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "By my grace you will overcome the obstacles." This is really simple. This points to a direct truth that the obstacles are not removed only by our own strategy or by force. They can be removed. They can dissolve when we're aligning with the divine. Okay. Another one of Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita says, "To those who are constantly devoted and who worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me." And I think that shows the pathway of grace. Devotion opens a channel. And then the illumination, the insight arises, not from effort alone, from the grace moving through the mind that's prepared for it. Okay? In the Katha Upanishad, it says, "The self is not attained by instruction, nor by intellect, nor by too much learning. It is attained by the one whom it chooses. To such a one, the self reveals its own nature." That, to me, is another clear statement on grace. If we study, if we reflect, if we listen, then realization happens when the self reveals itself. This choosing of that timing is the grace. It's not up to us. And likewise, in the Mundaka Upanishad, it says, "The self cannot be attained by the weak, nor the careless practice, nor without the right means. But if one strives by proper means, grace, the self, will reveal itself." So effort is required, strength is required, right method is required, and then the revelation happens, the grace happens, okay? So another one is from the Bhakti mystic poet Tulsidas. He said, very simply, without the Lord's grace, no one crosses the ocean of samsara. And that's not some kind of poetic exaggeration. It's actually a very precise statement. Samsara, which is the cycle of confusion and birth and death, meaning we forget ourselves, the cycle of confusion and suffering end when the grace comes in. And even the Vedantin, the non-dualist Ramana Maharshi, says grace is always there. It's not something to be acquired. All that's necessary is to know that it exists. So it removes the seeker. It removes seeking and thinking that something is outside of ourself, that it's not far away, that it's a constant, and it just, we have to shift the consciousness, okay? And the very last one that I'm going to say today is from Sri Adi Shankaracharya. He says, rare indeed are three things: a human birth, a desire for liberation or to know the self, and the guidance of a great soul, the guru. These arise only through divine grace. So if we look at that, the desire to know the truth is grace. Meeting of the guru, the true guru, is grace. Being in a position to do practices, to do sadhana, is grace. And grace is not only the final realization, it is that mechanism that operates at every stage. And then again, Amma says, God's grace is always flowing. Make yourself ready to receive it. Very simple. Purify the heart, do selfless action, surrender. Grace will come when our ego gets out of the way, okay? So I know this has been long. This has been a lot. And I hope it's been beneficial and inspiring in some way. I just want to, again, express my infinite gratitude to everyone here who's been listening to the last 99 and now 100 episodes. And I hope you continue listening and that it's been of some benefit to you in some way, in some part of your life. And if it has, that's grace. And that grace has always been there, remember. And the divine is not absent in our life. Help is not absent in our life. Blessings are not absent in our life. They're always there. We just need to be open to it. And let us together as one be open to that. Be open to the grace. Be open to the sunshine shining on us, like the lotus in the morning that's risen out of the mucky, murky pond, from that deep, dark, murky pond. It finally made it to the surface, and now it opens in the sunlight to receive its rays and make this beautiful divine fragrance. So let's open our hearts. Let our hearts be open. Let our minds be clear. Let our efforts be sincere, and may our surrender be profound, and may grace guide every single step of life. Before you go, if you've been curious about Ayurveda and want to actually understand your body and start applying it into your daily life, I built the complete Ayurveda course for exactly that. It contains more than 30 years of education and practice distilled into 50 lessons, with over 10 hours of content, guided meditations, personalized assessments, and so much more. It's designed so you'll feel real shifts as you go through it. You'll experience more energy, better digestion, increased mental clarity, and a deeper sense of balance. Lesson by lesson, it's all there. So go to Nibodhi.com/courses to learn more.